Everybody. I hope that you are well and also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 3 English lesson on subject and predicate. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 3, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of subject and predicate. All right, so our chapter is subject and predicate. Our subject is English language arts. Grade 3. And the lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of subject and predicate is to identify the complete subject of the sentence and to identify the complete predicate of the sentence. All right, so we're doing subject and predicate. So every sentence has a complete subject and a complete predicate. So every subject, so every sentence, right? Remember when we write the sentence starts with a capital letter, but every sentence has a complete subject and a complete predicate. So the complete subject, right? It tells us who and it tells us what is doing something. So it can be one word or it can be more than one word. So complete subject, once again, it tells us who and it tells us what is doing something, right? So for example, if we look at our sentence, it says she sleeps a lot. So she sleeps a lot. So now we need to ask ourselves who sleeps a lot. So if we ask ourselves who sleeps a lot, then we can say she sleeps a lot. Another example is her friend sleeps a lot, right? So we're asking ourselves once again, who sleeps a lot, right? And then we can say her friend sleeps a lot. And then another example is her best friend sleeps a lot. So once again, we're asking ourselves, who sleeps a lot? And then you can say her best friend, right? So far I have underlined she within the sentence, her friend, which is in the sentence, and her best friend. That is what I've underlined. So that all three of that is literally a subject of a sentence, right? Because it tells us who is doing something, right? And we say that it can either be one word, like over here, or it can be more than one word, right? So it can either be one word or it can be more than one word. So even if we were to say Jade sleeps a lot, right? Then still this would have been our subject. So our subject, it tells us who or what is doing something. So in this case, basically each one of these subjects, it tells us who sleeps a lot. All right. And then we also have a predicate, right? So once again, we said every sentence has a complete subject and it has a complete predicate, right? And the complete predicate on this, in this case, it tells us what the subject is doing. So here we have identified who the subject is, right? Because it tells us who did whatever. But now when it comes to a predicate, right? The complete predicate, it tells what the subject is doing. So it tells us what the subject is doing, the action that either the person or people or thing is doing. And the predicate, right, it is the verb, right, plus any other words that tell us more about it. So it doesn't just have to be one word, right? So that is why it says here it can be one word or it can be more than one word. So it doesn't just have to be one word, it can be more than one word because it is the verb plus any other word that tells us more about what the subject is doing. And an example is when we say her friend sleeps. So now we need to ask ourselves, who is sleeping? Right? So we said her friend. But now we need to ask, what is the friend doing? So the friend sleeps, right? So sleeps is our predicate, which is our verb. Now we need to ask again, what does her friend do? Sleeps a lot. So sleeps a lot is our predicate. You can ask again, what does her friend do? And then we can say sleeps a lot on a weekend. So whether it is one word like sleeps, or it can be sleeps a lot, or it can be sleeps a lot on a weekend, we call that a predicate. Of course, it can either be one word or it can be more than one word. So each one of that, right? Each completes that predicate, the verb, and it tells us what her friend does. All right. Okay, so now we're going to go to aplusstudents.ca, and then we're going to continue with our subject and predicate and also identify the complete subject as well as a predicate. All right. So we said that every sentence has a complete subject and it has a complete predicate, right? And we said a complete subject, it tells us who and it tells us what is doing something. And we said it can be one word or it can be more than one word, right? All right, so now we're going to look at a few activities, right, before we go on to our test. All right, they say we need to select one word that makes up the complete subject. So one word that makes up a complete subject. And our sentence is milk spoils too easily. So milk spoils too easily. We need to select the one word that makes a complete subject, a subject. So if we look at that sentence, what do you think is the subject within that sentence that either tells us who or what is doing something? It says milk spoils too easily. What do you think is the subject within that sentence? Milk spoils too easily. All right, and if we were to identify the subject in that sentence that either tells us what or who is doing something, and then we can say milk is our subject. So milk is our complete subject, right? Because it says milk, it spoils. It's something that milk does. It spoils too easily, right? So milk is our subject within that sentence. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody's name. It doesn't have to really be somebody's pronoun, right? It doesn't have to be a name of an animal. In this case, it is anything that basically does the action. All right, if we look at the next sentence, it says honeybees sting people sometimes. Honeybees sting people sometimes. We need to select one word that makes up a complete subject. That one word that either tells us who or what is doing something. So honeybees sting people sometimes. So now we need to ask ourselves, who stings people sometimes? If we look at that sentence, who stings people sometimes? So that we can get the subject or the complete subject within that sentence. So who stings people sometimes? All right, and if we were to identify the subject within that sentence, we would say honeybees is our subject, right? And honeybees, it tells us what is doing something, right? So honeybees, what are they doing? They sting people sometimes. So honeybees is our subject. All right. The pilot plans the route. The pilot plans the route. We need to select two words that make up a complete subject. Remember, we said in order to make up a complete subject, it can be either one word or it can be more than one word, right? That tells us who or what is doing something. The pilot plans the route. The pilot plans the route. So now we need to ask ourselves, who plans the route? So who plans the route? That is what we need to first ask ourselves, because that is a subject. And we see the complete subject, it tells us either who or what is doing something. So it can be one word or more than one word. And in this case, it is two words. So the subject plans the route. All right, then if we were to select the subject, we would say the pilot is our subject that plans the routes. right? So the pilot is our subject and it tells us who is doing something, right? So the pilot, that's the two words, the and pilot, right? So well done, Stanley. The pilot, right? It plans the routes. Remember, the subject is either the person who does something or what is doing something. So well done. All right, so now guys, remember, we go to the test when I know that everybody understands what we are doing, right? Remember, I did mention that once. And you need to first be interactive with me also so that I will know that you do understand because there's like 11 people viewing, which means that everybody first needs to know what a subject is before I can go on to the test, right? So before I go on to the test, does everybody understand what a subject is? Can at least have an indication that everybody knows what a subject is before we move on. All right, no problem, no problem at all. Okay, let us go to the test, right? So just before we go to the test, remember a complete subject, right? It tells us who or tells us what something is doing, right? And can either be one word or it can be more than one word, right? So you need to ask yourself who is doing something or what is doing something in order to get the subject of that sentence, right? All right, let's go to the test. We need to select one word that makes up the complete subject. It says, mice squeaked softly. Mice squeaked softly. Is it mice or is it softly? That's the subject. So now we need to ask ourselves who or what squeaks softly? Is it option one or option two? Who squeaks softly? Mice squeaked softly. We need to say who squeaked softly. Who or what squeaked softly? It says mice squeaked softly. Is it mice or is it softly? All right, so if we were to choose our correct subject, right, then mice is our subject, right? It tells us who squeaked softly or what squeaked softly, right? So well done. Mice is correct. The brown horse escaped. The brown horse escaped. We need to select three words that makes up the complete subject. Is it the brown horse? Or is it brown horse escaped? So is it the brown horse or brown horse escaped? We need to say who or what escaped. Who or what escaped? So the brown horse or brown horse escaped. All right. And if we were to select the correct one, we would say option one, right? Because if we were to choose the three words, then it is the brown horse, right? Because that is our subject, right? Because we're not just saying horse, but we're saying the brown horse, because now we're even describing the horse. So well done. Option one is correct. We need to select two words that make up the complete subject. Two words. Scott's dad chopped the wood. Scott's Scott's dad chopped the woods. The wood. Is it Scott's dad or is it the wood? So we need to ask ourselves who chopped the wood? So Scott's dad chopped the wood. So we need to ask ourselves who chopped the wood? Is it Scott's dad or is it the wood? Option one or option two? All right. So if we were to choose the correct one, we would say the first option, which is Scott's dad, right? So Scott's dad is the person that chopped the wood. So if we were to ask who chopped the wood, and then we would say Scott's dad chopped the wood. So well done. Our neighbor fed the dog. Our neighbor fed the dog. We need to choose two words that make up a complete subject. Is it our neighbor or is it the dog? Who fed the dog? All right. And if we were to choose the correct one, then it would be our neighbor. So our neighbor fed the dog. So who fed the dog? Our neighbor fed the dog. All right. Milk spoils too easily. Milk spoils too easily. Is it milk or spoils? We need to ask ourselves what spoils too easily. So milk spoils too easily. All right. Then if we were to say what spoils too easily, we would say option one, which is milk spoils too easily. So well done, everybody. All right, so now we're going on to say or to identify the complete predicate of a sentence, right? And we see the predicate, it tells what the subject is doing. So we have identified now all of the subjects, all right? But now we need to say what the subject is doing. We're basically going to be identifying the verb, the action that the subject is doing. So complete predicate tells us what the subject is doing. It is the verb plus any other word that tells us more about it. And it can be one word or it can be more than one word. All right. So if we look at our sentence, it says, the driver drove the bus. The driver drove the bus. We need to select three words that make up a complete predicate. The driver drove the bus. All right, we need to select three words that will make up our complete predicate. What are the three words? Is it the driver? It's in the sentence, it is the driver drove the bus. We need to say what the subject is doing. What is the driver doing? All right, and if we were to select the predicate within that sentence, right? Remember, we said the predicate can either be one word, which is the verb, right? That shows the action, or it can be more than one word. But basically, a predicate is the verb plus any other word that tells us more about it. So in this case, it is the predicate, which is drove, plus any other word, which is drove the bus. So well done. Drove the bus is correct. The large framed mirror cracked. The large framed mirror cracked. We need to select the one word or more than one word that is the predicate. It's the action. So the large framed mirror cracked. What is the subject doing? What is happening? What is the action within that sentence? All right. And if we were to select the predicate within that sentence, we would say it is correct because correct, it tells us what the subject is doing. And in this case, the subject is the large framed mirror, right? So what happened to the large framed mirror? It cracked, right? So well done. Cracked is correct. Only one word. Students raised the money. Students raised the money. What is the subject doing? What did the students do? Students is our subject. So what did the students do? We need to select three words. What did the subjects do? What did the students do? All right. All right. So if we were to select the predicate in that sentence, right? So we need to ask ourselves, like, what is the subject doing? So the subject is students. So what is the students doing? And we can say the students, they raised the money. So raise the money is our predicate, right? So let's go to our test. So well done. Well done. All right. So now we're going to select three words that make up the complete predicate, right? Three words that make up the complete predicate. It says honeybees sting people sometimes. What do honeybees do? Honeybees sting people sometimes. Is it option one, sting people sometimes, or option two, honeybees? So honeybees sting people sometimes. All right. So if we were to select the three words that make up a complete sentence, we can say sting people sometimes. Remember, we are doing. We remember this is this is the predicate, right? The predicate is the verb plus any other word that tells us what the subject is doing. Three words. Three words. So honeybees, they sting sometimes. So if we were to select the correct word or the correct option, the correct answer, or the correct predicate, we would say sting people sometimes. So which is option one. Option one. All right. That diner serves French fries. That diner serves French fries. We need to select the three words that make up a complete predicate. That diner serves French fries. All right, so that diner serves fresh French fries. Serves serves French fries, not fresh, but serves French fries. Is it serves French fries or diner serves? All right, so we can say serves French fries. So well done. That is our predicate. The farmer gathered the ducks. The farmer gathered the ducks. We need to select the three words that makes up the predicate. Is it farmer or is it gathered the ducks? All right, then if we were to select the predicate, right, that tells us what the farmer does, then we can say option two, which is gathered the ducks. Well done. The woman taught math. The woman taught math. We need to select the two words. We have taught math and we have woman. So two things, two words that we need to identify. Is it taught math or woman? Option one, option two, which is our answer. Two words, two words. Right? So we can say taught math, right? Taught math, and that is our predicate, right? That tells us what the woman does. All right, so well done, everybody. All right, so that is now the end of our lesson on subject and predicate. We had to identify the complete subject of a sentence and the complete predicate of the sentence, right? And we see the subject, it tells us who or what is doing action or doing something. And then we have a predicate that tells us what the subject is doing, right? It can either be one word or it can be more than one word. All right, so thank you very much, grade threes, for joining our class and for interacting. I really hope that you're going to have a good weekend further. Goodbye.